Well, I guess you could say that the Rays won the press conference. Their new owners were sort of introduced at Steinbrenner. I guess it was at Steinbrenner Field they held this event. But basically, it was Patrick Zalewski, his group that includes Bill Cosgrove and Ken Babby, who's the CEO, kind of be the day-to-day guy. They were all up there on the podium, not answering questions and basically giving zero details about what their plans are, other than, and stop me if you've heard this before, priority number one is to secure a site for the stadium and construct a stadium that will last for generations.
Well, not only that, but priority number one, they want to have it ready by opening day 2029.
That was a shock. That was a big shock.
Which means you better have that ready and plan set to go about opening day this year to start building.
Somebody better be at Lowe's buying shovels right now, because you're going to need them that quickly. Yeah, it just seems unrealistic. I mean, I don't.
Well, it seems unrealistic unless there's been more done behind the scenes than we know. Do they already know a little bit how they want to design the stadium? Have they? I'm sure they've already started some of that.
You mean, have
stuff.
they gotten architects and those?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they have. I'm sure they've already started that process. Now, it will.
But you can't just design it to go in. It's not an erector set where you just plop it anywhere.
No, but okay, here's the type of features we want. Here's the feel we want. Here's the this. And so, now based on where it's at, and they want to do this whole 100-acre mixed-use development with hotels and offices.
That's going to help them pay for it. That's right.
Absolutely. And so depending on which space you're in will determine a lot of things, but some of that legwork could be done already. Now,
I don't doubt that. Look, they've known for quite some time they were going to make this purchase and they were going to be approved by Major League Baseball and all that stuff. But it's unfortunate for them, and maybe the reason they're here is they're jumping on exactly where Stuart Sternberg jumped off. I mean, which is, hey, this is great, new ownership. Try to be good stewards of the franchise and maintain its reputation and all this sort of stuff. But oh, by the way, we're like the last guy. We don't have it. We don't have a stadium, and the best thing you can say about us is we're not the last guy. That maybe we can get it done where people were just kind of tired of dealing with Stu. The one thing that was reported, although not said specifically, and I do know this to be true in many other of my according to my sources, people that I might know that might know things. Their preference right now, and it could change, is to build the stadium in the Hillsborough Community College site, which is across from Del Mabry, really across from Raymond James Stadium, to be honest with you. And they were talking about how they require a minimum of 100 acres for this mixed-use development that would include their new ballpark. And there are, I guess, well over like 106 or 103 acres in that HCC site. Not said was what happens to HCC. And also, one thing that might make this a little more feasible is that Zalewski and others have a relationship with the governor, Ron DeSantis, which would be needed in order to address this community college. I read something where, well, maybe if they, have enough mixed use space that they can, sort of replace and move around, the home of those HCC campus. But it's not a bad location, and their goal is to do what has happened in Atlanta and other places. I got news for you, though, and this is a question that I don't have an answer to. How do the Bucs react to this if that actually becomes their site?
Well, do they have any say in this? And I don't know if they do. I mean, they can be upset, but
well, listen, in as much as they're all going to have to require a good amount of the community investment tax set that was extended, but only by 15 years, not 30. Okay. Half-cent sales tax, Hillsborough County. That's basically what constructed Raymond James Stadium.
Yep.
But the Bucs are looking at an incredibly difficult renovation, stripping that stadium down to its bones, so to speak, doing something, don't know what, could be awnings, could be any number, but won't be a enclosed stadium, but doing something to make it more climate controlled. And and they need it last week. This stadium is coming up on 30 years old.
No, hold on. They need it last week. They haven't come to the county with anything.
Well, now hold on.
The ball's in their court at this point, right?
They haven't, but the discussions have been going on.
Well, sure.
And they're strategically have said zero. I wrote a story.
Yeah, they're waiting for the lease to be near the end. They're waiting for the lease to be near the end. That's when you negotiate the best.
Well, not just. I mean, look, everybody knows that the lease is coming up. That's one thing. But from what my understanding is, when Raymond James Stadium was built, and people that probably haven't been here long enough wouldn't remember this, it was very contentious, extremely a lot of opposition to spending even a dime of this community investment tax for the Glazers, for this to keep the Bucs in Tampa Bay. And there were screaming matches, there was eruptions in restaurants and different things like that. It just got to be very uncomfortable for the family, the way it went down, and it ended up going on a referendum, and it passed by less than 5%. They threw it in with the community investment tax, and the rest, as they say, is history. But my understanding is at least that the Glazers want to keep the waters as calm as possible, but they're a little like ducks on a water where it looks real placid on the top of it, but then you look underneath and those little feet and paddles are going a million miles an hour. And that's what I think the Bucs have been doing behind the scenes for a long time. Okay. And I think that they have their own timetable, which is probably the same, if not sooner, than what the Tampa Bay Rays would be. And I don't know what they think of this. On the one hand, maybe they could think, okay, great. Yeah, let them have a mixed use, area over there on HCC and a stadium and all that. And that will just enhance people's experience in that area coming to Bucs games, because the Bucs don't play, 12 months a year. There's going to be times when that stadium's not in use. Or they could look at it as pure competition at minimum for however they're going to divvy up that community investment tax. And maybe in the macro, well, wait a minute, if we have a development over here and they have a development down there, is that going to take away business? Will it be able to support both during baseball season when we're not playing, or during football season when they're not playing? It's just really interesting that, my sense is, and haven't talked to anybody about this just yet specifically. My sense is they would prefer it not be there. I think they're probably realists to know that they probably are unable to stop them per se.
But it all depends on all the funding and
it depends on the funding. And the thing is, I can tell you right now, what the Bucs are going to require is in excess of $1 billion to renovate that stadium. Now, do they put $300 million in it? Do they put $100 million? I don't know. I don't have the answer.
There's that, and then what's the funding on the Rays Day? How much is coming from
same question
use, and how much is Zalipsky and his group?
Same question, right?
Yeah.
And
but the other part too, and this is, it comes down to dates and this and the other, but a mixed use thing around a football stadium doesn't work as well, because
you don't have as many dates.
You don't have 81 dates a year bringing people, anchoring it.
Right.
It's 10 days a year, and it's Sundays, not Thursday night, not Friday night, not Saturday night.
Well, and keep in mind, USF's building their own stadium, so they're going to lose college football.
Yeah, I mean, you have some it's hard to build a mixed use development around a football stadium if that's the only thing there.
Mm-hmm.
It needs baseball is perfect for that, because there's 81 nights all summer long.
Absolutely, and from that standpoint, it's possible, again, because I haven't talked to them, they may be great, because now there's reason for people to go down there year round, and that the rising tide theory might actually help them. But if I'm the Bucs, and I want to do that on the Dale Mabry property, to the west there, or the east, I guess it would be the east of Dale Mabry. I want to attract the best tenants, the best mixed use apartment buildings, the best restaurants, whatever. And if I have to compete with this entity across the street from Dale Mabry on the west side, that doesn't make life easier for me, right? Because we're all going to go for the finite sponsorship money that's out there. And it's just another big mouth to feed, really, to be honest with you. I can't imagine that they're thrilled about it. Let's just put it that way. If they were going to be honest, I don't see an upside for them, really. Other than, like you said,
well, unless they can get a piece of it.
They get a piece of it, or it creates constant traffic during their off season, which is possible. I mean, it really is possible that they could benefit that way. I will tell you a story, though, that back in the day when the old sombrero was going to get torn down and they're going to put a new ballpark on that site, or even supplanting that, you know, hockey was coming about that time, and I think the mayor was Sandy Friedman in Tampa. And she was perceptive enough to know that the Bucs were in a bad place from a stadium standpoint. They needed a new one with the bells and whistles and the suites and the club seats and all that. And they had been looking heavily at Baltimore until Art Modell surprised everybody and moved the Browns there. But the Lightning were coming of age, and they were going to build an arena. And the first place the Lightning wanted to go was near Raymond James, near that area off Dale Mabry. And the Bucs had a visceral reaction to that idea. They were like, no, that's not going to work, And Freeman, I think, as the story goes, was perceptive enough to kind of realize that she didn't want to lose. The Bucs had been here longer. She threw a bunch of support behind building the convention center on, down by there by Harbor Island. And that opened up a new pathway, a new window sort of for that area that's been, well since developed now, where you see Amalie, or what used to be Amalie Arena. And you got Harbor Island down there, you got hotels popping up. But she felt like, if we don't find a home, a better, an alternative for this hockey team, we may lose the Bucs. So the Bucs were opposed, and, it was the Glazers back then. And if they were opposed to that then, why would they not necessarily be opposed to it now? I don't know. I don't know what I don't know, and I'm kind of just speculating here. It's going to happen. I think it happens at the HCC site. The other possibility would be out towards the fairgrounds, perhaps, maybe some of the Hard Rock gets involved. I don't know. I don't know where else you can put the thing, unless you go back to St. Pete.
There was talk about West Shore Plaza, but I don't know if there's enough land there.
Yeah, he needs 100 acres. Yeah, and I don't know that there's 100 acres in that area.
I think Ebor's out because there's not enough space.
Ebor's smallish, and there's also environmental areas where you got to build it up around that, that pier down there. And that's another thing about, like, and I don't know this to be absolutely true, but, like, one of the big expenses beyond, the actual concrete and stuff is that you need to do environmental studies. You got to know if there's a big enough power grid. Like, what would be an advantage, I think, I'm not sure, but I think what would be an advantage by keeping it nearby is that all that stuff's been done, and it's been done by the county, right, or the city. And that stuff costs money. When you're looking at, hey, where's the power grids? What's the environmental impact? All that stuff. If somebody's always kind of taking care of that, that reduces your cost too. But it's very, very important that they do it. And are the Rays going to take that on themselves and pay for those and basically say, we're taking on the overruns because whatever's in this ballpark, we're going to get 100% of the revenue, and we're going to try to book it, instead of handing it to the TSA, who really has no motivation to do so. I don't know. There's a lot of questions about how the Bucs will react to this, because I still think, you can't do a renovation without $1 billion with a B of the Bucs, or a new one would cost $2 billion. But I still think there's this belief, at least in Hillsborough, that if you got to rank these teams, the Bucs are going to get the first bite of the apple. Like, we're not going to do anything to upset that cart, And I think they'll have a say in it before it's over, good or bad.
And that's
Could be
and
good.
that's, look, it's also because both Raymond James Stadium and Benchmark International Arena are county-owned buildings.
Correct.
So the county and those buildings are both coming up on 30 years old.
That's right.
And
they
require
have to address
maintenance after that time. I mean, it's the county's already required and responsible for that.
That's
now,
right.
How much and how that is, that's all part of, what teams want to do and negotiations and that. But
yeah,
before a baseball stadium is built, those facilities have to be maintained by the county.
Right.
And so, so the money's got to go there first. Now, how much of it, that's all up in the air. I mean, that's, that comes down to, here's what we want to do, here's what we'd like to do, here's what the county's willing to do.
And is there enough, right? Because I think they extended this by 15 years. Certainly there's a lot more people in this community than there was when it was, 30 years ago. But I can tell you this, like, you're not renovating Raymond James for under $1 billion with a B.
No.
Whether the Glazers put in $200 or $300 million or not, I have no idea. Maybe they put in zero. Also heard Zalewski or one of them say that their stadium will be a dome of some kind. It would be it'll have a roof. It won't be retractable. It'll just be a roof.
That keeps the cost down. I mean,
what's that?
It keeps the cost down.
It keeps the cost down.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it has to. I mean, unless someone privately wants to fund a open, a retractable roof, it's going to have a dome on it because it just costs too much.
Costs too much, and frankly, how many days are you going to have it open?
Yeah, I mean, April.
That's basically 1 month, maybe a part of May, but it's going to be it's going to be hella hot by then, even in May.
Yep.
So it's not cost effective. There's some things they can do now with the new stadiums that are absolutely stunning, like the one U.S. Bank out in Minneapolis for the football team. The glass enclosures, the ability to look out the window, the lighting, which is, kind of pure sunlight, like all that stuff makes you forget, in a sense, except that you're not getting pelted by rain or something awful. I agree with that decision. I don't think you could do anything different. And if anybody knows that, it's after having played, in the 110-degree heat of Steinbrenner Field. They got a little taste of outdoor baseball, and it didn't go that great.
No, and look, you're looking for a mixed use, and you want to use it for a lot of other things. The dome allows it to be used more often.
Mixed use. There you go.
You can
Concerts,
use the stadium for other stuff more often.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. I understand why they want to do that. Where, how much, when? I'm telling you, it's going to be real. The sound you have not heard is that of the Glazer family. That even when pressed, like at the owners' meeting this past March or whatever it was, they did not want to talk about it. And I know it's on the front burner of everybody's minds over there, not the middle or the back. I mean, this is a front burner topic. And they just saw another professional, team that plays 82 games a year there say they want to be right across the street from the Rays. And it's not because they're Rays fans, they just see an opportunity. It's fascinating, but like you said, to your point, I'm sure a lot of people have done a lot of homework and a lot of groundwork. And, though there's people a lot smarter than us will figure it out. By the way, did you see the limited partners? One of them, former Duke star, basketball star, Shane Battier.
I saw that.
Isn't that crazy?
That's awesome.
Yeah. There's a name for you.
The other thing I thought was interesting in the press conference that Zalewski said is he said, per Stu's wishes, they didn't talk to county or city officials until the sale was finalized.
That's interesting.
That was part of the agreement with Stu. Now, has there been a handful of conversations off the record, whatever? I'm sure there's probably
with intermediaries,
but nothing official, nothing public, nothing.
Yeah,
nothing with anything concrete or anything to start anything. So, some of the things we thought maybe they had a lot of stuff working behind the scenes, and probably from, an architectural and knowing what they already know they need 100 acres. They want, hotel, like all that stuff they've kind of started working on. But the government part, maybe it's just been the last week or so that they've started that.
Well, the one part that was encouraging, it sure sounds like that, at least for now, they definitely want Kevin Cash and Eric Neander back, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, they were even asked, about like signing players, and they're like, "And Eric and Kevin, we trust."
Yeah, and then as soon as this meeting's over, hey guys, we're not signing any players with money. We're not going to do it.
My guess is it'll be, here's the budget. You guys do what you think's best.
Yeah, but do you think that budget's going to be drastically different, or maybe even
but
less?
Here's the thing: I think if they're going to sign Junior Caminero, like unlike football or whatever else, where there's an AAV and you have to, there's a salary cap. Like Wander Franco's deal, if you remember when they signed it, it was like $2 million this year, $3 million this year, $4 million, and
backloaded.
And then the backloaded was when you got to 12 and
That's
15,
true.
and it's like they don't have to sign Caminero to $18 million a year now.
No.
Like you can lock him in, but it can be less upfront, more as the stadium comes, which is ultimately what they kind of said today at the press conference was, the increased revenues from a stadium will increase what we spend.
Yeah.
Baseball, that's probably the one good part of baseball is that you don't have that, well, okay, we're paying you this much, but even though we backloaded or pay more cash up front or in the back or wherever, like it's the AAV that affects our cap and how we operate. Baseball didn't have that. So you could go, yeah, we'll guarantee you $12 million in 3 years from now, and then 15 and 20 and whatever. And that's after the new stadium. So I don't know if they won't sign like Caminero this offseason. But I think it'll, it's probably going to have to be a more team-friendly deal where it's less upfront.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What's the urgency for that? Isn't he under their control for like 5 years?
He is, yeah.
So why would you then? I mean, you could argue, well, it's going to cost you a lot less now to do it now than in 5 years.
That's the whole point. Is so,
but you don't have to do it this year.
No, you don't. That's
even next,
yeah, right? So you sign him to but if you did it now, and I'm not saying, to be honest, okay, he had 46 home runs, fantastic season, great player,
unbelievable, yeah.
But in a hitters friendly park, what's it going to be in the Trop? Is next year going to be 35 or 30?
Yeah, I don't know.
Which would still be a good season, like, so. But if you signed him now, you're not signing him to a 5-year deal. You're signing him to an 8-year deal. So he's giving up years of free agency to guarantee himself money now and for the future. And you get more cost certainty going forward and not him skyrocketing past that. Like, because they have control for 5 more years, you wouldn't sign him to a 5-year deal. You'd sign him to an 8 or 10-year deal.
Right.
You're basically buying out free agency years, in theory, at a cheaper rate, but giving him more money now because he's making the league minimum essentially at this point.
Right.
And that's why for some players it works, for some it doesn't. Some players want that certainty that, hey, I don't need to make as much of my career. I want guaranteed money now and for the next few years, even though maybe I'd be worth more in the future.
Look, I could be wrong, but I don't think you pay $175 million for an asset that many valued at 1.3, and then say, yeah, checkbook's wide open, go get them, guys. Like,
well, and the other part of this too is, okay, Eric Neander is still running baseball ops. Signed Wander Franco to this huge deal.
That's weird, yeah.
And 12-year deal, and it didn't work out. Now, it looks like they're not going to be on the hook for the money. But the risk of signing a player, because it's a fully guaranteed contract. It's not like football where the first year
you got to be right. You better be right.
If you're not, like, you're on the hook for 8, 10, 12 years. With 5 years of control of junior, they may be like, let's just wait another year. Let's see.
That's my thing. Like, I'm trying to figure out, other than, each year that goes by, the sort of like inflationary, cost of these players is exponentially higher. But is it to the point where you want to do it now? Like, I don't, you have them under control, and control is what you're trying to attain.
Yeah. So I think the other part of this, and I don't, I'll confess, I don't know, and nobody really knows because we don't know what's going to happen in the next CBA. But the collective bargaining agreement ends a little over a year from now.
Okay.
Most likely the beginning of the 27 season is going to be delayed in some form.
Yeah.
Maybe not long. We'll
that's
see.
That's the train coming down the tracks is a work stoppage. Yeah.
So the question is, if you're the Rays or any team really looking at this scenario, Are we better trying to lock a player in long term before this new CBA, or would we rather wait till afterwards, depending on what happens, whether it's from salary cap or some kind of rev share thing, And I don't know. Obviously, Eric Neander is going to know what's kind of talked on the baseball owner side. The
Yeah.
players, are having their own conversations. How many players want to lock into long-term deals with 1 year left in the CBA? Maybe you get a better deal on the back end. Maybe you don't.
Right.
For either side could be better or worse. I don't, and no one really knows how it's going to end up, but there's that part of it too, knowing, hey, he's under control for 5 years. We may have a lockout or a complete change in the way our financial system and we share and do everything changes next year. Let's wait for that too. So I know fans are kind of in a rush to, he had a great year, let's sign him. But the Rays don't have to do that.
When you're under control, that's why rookie contracts are rookie contracts. Yeah, guys can outperform them early, and you can reward them, by making it better. But I don't know, if you have control, then it's kind of in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to. I think here's what I think. They have to have a site that makes mixed use development possible, and these guys are real estate guys; they're developers, and so that's the key to everything. Like, tell me how much money we'll spend. Okay, let me know how much we're going to make on this new, location and or the restaurants and apartment buildings around it. Like, I don't know. I would think it'd be pretty damn good. So, but then you got the Lightning across the street are going to want $1 billion, and they're going to have to, they're not going to have a retractable roof. They're going to have to find a way to close it.
Yeah, the Bucs will want $1 billion. Yep.
Yeah, they'll want $1 billion with a B. And whether they put money into that, like 200 million, or they need $1 billion plus what they're gonna use, I don't know. But to build a new one, it's $2 billion. To renovate a current one, it's $1 billion. And it won't be a dome. However, I'm fairly certain of that. It'll be climate. There will be climate controls.
I think if you're building a dome, you're going to build a new one.
You're going to build it where?
You're going to build a new one. You're not going to renovate.
You'd have to tear it down.
That's what I'm saying.
The whole key.
If you're building a dome, you're building a new one.
You're going to raise it, and then you're going to have to start from scratch, and it's going to cost you $2 billion. If you can kind of fit this right, you can keep the current infrastructure, and or they say it has, stadium has good bones. Keep those good bones and just strip it down and make it what you want, and then put it back together again and have a brand new sort of facility. That's a lot of work, a lot of planning. Maybe they don't want that going on. I don't know. But yeah, I think we're in for a number of really interesting years. And the silence, trust me, it's intentional by the Bucs. And they're paying really close attention to what's kind of going on, with the Tampa Bay Rays. But there's certainly a case to be made that, hey, if you've got some restaurant and bars on this side of Dale Mabry and they got some on that side, as long as somebody's playing, people are going to come down and want to eat, or want to live, or whatever development they decide around the stadium. So I think it's kind of a win-win in a way. But who's first, right? That's going to be the key. And how much of this money how long is it going to last? It's a shorter term as far as the tax goes. I think it's 15 years. It was 30. Who gets what, when, where? Do you have to be first to the table? It's just a lot of questions. We also got some questions about some stuff that happened after we were off the air. How about the Jacksonville Jaguars in that game beating Kansas City on Monday Night Football? What a finish they had. But first, want you guys to get on down to Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. That's where you're going to find the beautiful watches, the best Swiss watch you've ever known. The Breitling Company's been in business now for over 140 years. As I mentioned, they're at International Plaza for the past 5 years. Go check out their watches for men, your boyfriend, your husband. They have the beautiful Chronomat watches, and also the Navatimers is what they're known for. And then for women, your wife or your girlfriend, they have sports watches that are in crazy, just really beautiful, also durable as hell. So if your wife is like mine and she's on the go, banging around, these things will hold up and look great. They got all the color wristbands that she can choose from as well. And while supplies last, and this is important if you're an NFL fan, the NFL and the Breitling Company has gotten together and they produced 32 team watches, one for each team in the National Football League. And these things are gorgeous. So the face of the watch, of this Chronomat watch, has the team colors. They have the logo inside. They are collector's items. They are only while supplies last. That is the key. So make sure you get on down there. Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. When you go, let them know that you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Hey, shout out to Liam Coen. Duval. He might have been, that sort of quirky, meme that everybody made fun of back in the day, with all sort of the subterfuge and running off to Jacksonville and, accepting the chance to come back as the Bucs coordinator. And then bam, he was gone. And it was kind of some cringeworthy moments. Yeah. They're not laughing now, are they?
Hey, get your name out of my mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
Get my name out of your mouth.
Get my name out of your mouth, Robert Saleh, who looks like he could break Liam Coen and snap him in half. But I'll say this, man, they ain't backing down to nobody. They should have the Tom Petty song in that stadium, because we won't back down. The Chiefs came in there, put up a 14-0 lead, and it wasn't enough, not nearly. It was just wild what Jacksonville was able to do to come back. And then how about the way the game ended?
Yeah, how about Trevor Lawrence getting stepped on?
It was just
then stumbling trying to get up.
He looked like a new colt that has just been born and never walked before. He falls once, he falls twice, and in his mind, he was thinking, rightly so, they had no more timeouts. Like, I got to throw this thing out of bounds, right, and play another down. But then he saw all of a sudden there was some room over there, and he just went for it and made a play. It was great.
It was almost Patrick Mahomes-esque.
It really was.
I mean, if you would have told me which quarterback's going to make that play, Patrick Mahomes, easily.
Absolutely. There was fire in Trevor Lawrence that I have not seen. He's won everywhere he's been. He's been a good quarterback. He was great in college. But he had the best players around him, and gone through many coaching changes here, obviously. I said in the beginning, just based on what I saw Liam do with Baker, that he was going to make a huge difference for Trevor Lawrence, because he has an air of confidence about him, almost an arrogance, if you will. But more than that, he gives these guys the answers, that they're able to operate at a high level, change plays, get them into better plays. But the physical talent's always been there for Trevor. The deep ball he throws to Brian Thomas was an absolute dime at the end of the game. Like, just an incredible, maybe 8 to 10 guys in this league can drop it in there like that. So the arm talent is there. He's a good athlete. He ran more than he normally does. And, when it mattered, he willed them to victory. I mean, he kind of took the game over at its most pivotal spot, and that's what you want your quarterback to do. So, huge night for Liam Coen. He was on all the shows during the day. I turn on 2 or 3 shows. It's like, oh, Liam's on with McAfee. Oh, Liam's on with this one. But you know what? Take your bows. You're 4-1. Like, who saw that coming, right?
There's been a lot of that in the NFL this year,
right?
We saw the Chiefs 2-3.
It's weird. The Ravens have one win.
Ravens are struggling. Yeah. The Niners at 4-1 with all the injuries.
Right. And that's why I say
the Patriots are good. The Colts
Patriots are better. Colts have been playing great. But yeah, I think, and where are we? Tuesday, October 7th. Here's what I think. I think the NFC's wide open to me. Like, I know Philadelphia has won it and won all these games, but they the way they play, I know the Bucs aren't scared of them. If they don't have a cataclysmic, block punt on the first possession, maybe that game goes different. But they're not afraid of anybody, and I do. I think it's wide open. This has the air of a special year to it. When you're going to go back and look at these games that Baker pulled out in the final seconds, only team to do it since the 1970 merger, 4 wins all in the final minute. That's the clutch gene, man. That's showing up when it's big. This game against San Francisco is going to be big, coming up too, for the Bucs. But Jacksonville's right in there, man. Jacksonville, I don't think it's a fluke. I think they're getting better. I don't think they've played their best football yet.
Well, if you have the quarterback
Mm-hmm.
and you have a coach that can help a quarterback, much like Liam Coen helped Baker Mayfield here.
Yeah.
Same thing you're seeing, Carolina's getting better and Bryce Young's getting better with Canales there.
Right. And I think Jacksonville's defense, they have lived on turnovers, and they just had a 99-yard interception return. And it's that's not a fluke. So they're playing good ball. Their offensive line is not great. I mean, Robert Hainsey was their starting center. He went out. I like Robert. He's not a top, tier or even a second tier guy when it comes to just measuring up centers. Smart guy, fights like hell, but not an abundance of talent. That's why Graham Barton is here. So they definitely can get better in areas, and they should, and they will, because like I said, this is Liam's first year, first bite of the apple. But they're not a fake. Like, they got some real players, really good players, and Liam's done a nice job. He's not going to lack confidence, man, and he's able to transfer it. He's that rare coach, in my opinion. We knew he was a good play caller. What I wasn't sure about, because he was sort of quirky and didn't stand up before the big group, but he's been, his dad was a head coach, so he's been around great head coaches. What I wasn't sure is like what would happen, how it would go over when he had to coach the whole team. Would he spend less time on offense? Would that suffer? So on and so forth. And because he was a little bit different, a little quirky, but those guys have completely bought in. Like, you can feel the buy-in, which is what you need as a new head coach. Like, they're just looking for reasons to believe in what you're doing, and they've had plenty of them. So it was kind of fun to watch. I liked Liam when he was here. I mean, the whole thing ended bad because of the breakup, I guess, he had with the Bucs and them not finding him for 24 hours or so. But no one now can blame him for becoming a head coach. I don't think they really did then. It was just sort of him going back on his word. But the dude is talented, and this may be his thing. I mean, he may be one of those guys that can do both the culture and the plays. And there's very few coaches that do both like that, and he might be one of them that can handle that task. But it's early, right? Like, you can't really crown people in October. If you could, then Baker Mayfield would be the MVP, and Emeka Buko is Rookie of the Year, and the Coach of the Year might be Liam Coen. But we still got a lot of games still left to play, and so we'll see where they go from there. But what an exciting Monday night game! Like, it was really fun to watch. Could be a transformational win type thing for the franchise. You may look back at this. This might be, and it was early in '97 after the Bucs had their first year with Tony Dungy. They were 1-8, and then they won, I think, 5 of their last 8 and finished 6-10. And you got a Gatorade bath. Then the next year, I think they started 5-0, 4 or 5-0, and they beat the San Francisco 49ers. It was a close game. It was like 13-6 or something like that. But it was one of those games where it's like, whoa, like, did this team just serve notice that they are now a factor in the NFC? Are they now going to be one of those teams to watch that could win a Super Bowl? And the answer was yes. It took many years after that. But will we look back at this game and say, that game right there against the Chiefs, with that Trevor Lawrence diving into the end zone, is that the one? Obviously it made them 4-1, which is a damn good record, but is that the one that propels them, to a winning program and such? So should be fun to watch for sure. All right. So we talked about the Rays. Obviously, we talked about the Bucs. They'll be back at practice today. Baker Mayfield will be talking. We'll have a chance to chat with Todd Bowles. Not much on the injury front. They did sign a running back to the practice squad. We released Sua Peta from the practice squad. I think the most interesting thing I'll be trying to find out today, because he was limping at the end of the game, is Chris Godwin okay? Todd Bowles said that he's a little sore. But I think, knock on wood if you're a Bucs fan, but I think they came out of this game for once without any catastrophic injuries. Like they've been on this run now for a while, and they could get players back. I think Ben Morrison has a chance. Maybe Izzian has a chance. You just wonder like what this team would be if and when they all stay together, if they're able to still be together when Mike Evans comes back. Looking down the road, Jalen McMillan comes back. How about, Luke Gedeke at right tackle, like Doug Martin, you can go on and on. If they had all their horses, man, these guys are going to be a really tough out. And in a weird way, just their ability to stay resilient and stay in games and then win them at the end. That's huge for this time when you have so many injuries, because they do have a chance to get guys back. So it'll be interesting. So we'll be out there talking to them about the 49ers coming to town, and with all that means. John Lynch, the GM, will be back in his old stomping grounds. I know a lot of those people in that organization, so it'll be fun to see them. Close game last year here. 49ers pulled it out, I believe. George Kittle had a ridiculous touchdown during the game. So he probably won't play in this one. Two teams, both, with good records, looking to survive until they can get their players back. And that's kind of where they're at. So get on down to Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. Make sure you check out all the beautiful watches, the men's watches. They also have NFL watches, all 32 teams, while supplies last. They are going quick, folks. You want to make sure you see these. Also, watches for your wife or girlfriend. It's Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. Let them know you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Thanks for listening, as always. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud, Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.